Hey, my name is Dr. TK, and welcome to the Abundant Creator Podcast. On this podcast show, we will uncover prosperous tools to help you become the CEO of your business and your life. I am a mom and wife who merged my knowledge as a clinical psychologist and professor for over 20 years into building a multi-six-figure mental health business and seven-figure digital product business serving others and doing what I love. Now, I believe that you can make a wildly abundant living unapologetically while also dreaming big, enjoying life, and making a huge impact. So if you are ready to achieve your biggest goals, then you are in the right place. So let's get started. Welcome. My name is Dr. TK. I am a clinical psychologist. I am a therapist, business coach, and mentor. I'm a digital product mentor as well. And today we are talking about marketing. I'm going to say marketing basics with a refresh. And I want to talk about, are you tuned into the right channel? Okay. So I want you to think back to a time, whether it was personal or business, that you actually manifested what you want. You were successful with what you were going for, right? So I'm going to give you some examples. And if you want to, put them into the comment box, then please do so, right? So some of the things that came to mind when I did like a reflection on the things that have been manifested, honestly, since I was a child up to now. I'm not going to clearly list out every single thing, but some of the things that came to mind that were huge milestones were when I decided to, let's just go back to high school, right? In high school, there was a time where I was playing basketball and doing cheerleading, and typically you don't do both of those things at the same time. So I decided for that year, I was not only going to be a get on the cheer squad because I had to try out, but I was also going to get MVP for basketball. And I was also going to be the basketball captain of my team. And it happened. Okay. I want you to start seeing a trend of your past manifestations, your past successes. When I got into my senior year, I said, I'm going to be the class president. And it happened. Right. Then I went off to college, had a great time. But then it got to a point where I said, let me stop playing. I'm going to parties every night, leaving the house at 12 o'clock at night. I used to promote for clubs. For those of you who don't know, I already had my time outside and I had a good time. But I would leave the house like at 11 or 12 o'clock at night and I would be out till 4 o'clock in the morning. Clearly my grades started to suffer because I was doing my homework and all, but I wasn't getting a lot of sleep. And so what ended up happening is my A's start turning into B's and C's, and that's not conducive to the way that I do school. And so it wasn't until though I tied it to something that I had to work toward. So there was an area in my life where I knew I wanted more than only a bachelor's degree in psychology, but I wasn't very clear on what that path looked like. I wasn't even sure if I wanted to become a therapist. I just knew I wanted to work with kids, and I went back and forth between biology and psychology major, right? So I met a professor, and they started telling me that I should apply for the graduate programs. And I said, okay. So I made the decision that I wanted to apply to grad school. So what did I do? I slowed down on the party, and I made the decisions based on my goal. And then all of a sudden, my grades started to pick up and I became qualified to apply to graduate school, right? Then moving forward, I'm in graduate school. A couple of things happened. I decided that I will graduate within that 2 years and I'm going to position myself to get very close to my professor. So I became a TA in my master's program. And I declared that at some point, I'm going to go back and get my doctorate. So I met with another professor, and these people all became my mentors, but I like to ask questions. So take advantage of mentorship, right? So when I talked to my mentor at that time, she was my assessment professor, and I fell in love with testing. So I said, what else can I do with this? And she said, oh, you have to become a psychologist if you really want to do testing. And I said, okay, well, what do I looked into some PhD programs, and she kept it 100% real. And I respect people who do this. She said, you can apply to these PhD programs, but to be quite frank, they're going to request that you get a super high score on the standardized test. And she knew my history with standardized tests. She said, they're going to look at you as being a well-rounded student, which you are. They're going to look at extracurriculars, which you do. But they're also only going to accept 8 people out of 500 applicants. And she said, I want you to ask yourself with the test scores, because that's the first thing they're going to do to weed you out. Do you believe that you can test in the top 1%? And I said, no. And that was more of a mindset, but I just firmly believed within 6 months I wouldn't be able to score compared to my counterparts because of my background and my test anxiety, to be quite frank. So she said, I would suggest you still apply to those PhD programs. I would also suggest you look into what's called PsyD programs. They're not heavily focused on research. They're more focused on the things that you want to do anyway, which is practicality of mental health services, delivering the services, learning more about testing. You still have to do a dissertation to get out, so you ain't getting out of that. So what did I do? I applied to both. I went into the doctoral program, got accepted. When I went into that program, I declared that I would graduate in 4 years because a lot of people were graduating in 5, 6 plus because they said, what we were told that they were what's called ABD. They were all but dissertation students, meaning you did all this work, you get to the finish line, but you don't want to do the heavier lifting with this research project, therefore you don't graduate. And then you still have to pay at the cost of our tuition at the time. You still have to pay for 1 unit of a class every single semester to stay enrolled, which is equivalent to $1,000 each semester. And you hit a threshold where you can't continue to collect internship hours or pre-doc hours because you need to graduate, right? So again, I declared in that program, I'm not only going to graduate in 4 years, I also, for whatever reason, declared that I was going to be the first one to defend my dissertation. I also declared that I would have a position on student body. So I just want you to see how I'm setting the stage for what I want you to think about in terms of going toward goals, reaching the goals, manifesting the goals, whatever word you want to use. You were doing it your whole life. But the problem is, and what I find that happens in therapy, is that people don't look at their life as a timeline unless you're forced to do so. People will answer questions based on their timeline, based on what people ask you, right? In therapy, we ask it to you in chronological order. So that's where some people who go to therapy feel hella uncomfortable in the first intake session and sometimes don't come back because they realize that answering those questions, they started to connect the dots. And sometimes it's more heavily focused on trauma and not so many great things, or those outweigh the positive things. So then they start feeling worse and then they don't want to keep talking, right? But let's focus on the positive. So up until that point, I also said I wanted to open up my own private practice. I didn't know what that was supposed to look like. I was just declaring all kind of stuff, right? And so fast forward, I became the president of the school, my graduate program, my doctoral program. I was the first one in my entire cohort of 60 to defend my dissertation, right? I was a heavy hitter coming out swinging, right? But what I want to share with you, when I take a look back at every single thing that I manifested, especially in seasons where it doesn't seem like things are working for me, I always go back and look at my documented journey. So some people may ask, people have asked me like, why does it seem like creating video and marketing content, why does it come easy to you? Even if I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, it comes easy to me in terms of not being afraid to go find the resources to help me, whether it's free, paid, in a book, in a video. And it's primarily because also of my history in that industry as well. I grew up in a household where my grandmother bought the old school like camcorder that now they have on movie sets, right? My grandfather worked for Universal Studios or whatever the company is placed in Universal Studios. He helped put together like sets of movies. So I was around conversations for TV shows, like he worked on Martin, right? He talked about that stuff all the time. So it became part of my just daily habits to ask my grandfather when I was over there after school, like, how was work? Was it fun? You worked late last night if I spent the night, kind of thing. Oh my God, you met Martin Lawrence. How was it? And back then, I guess Martin now was a different Martin back then. And so he didn't like it, but he was like, I'm just there to do my job. But let me just tell you what we did. My grandfather helped, if y'all super old school, he helped build the set of People Under the Stairs. How many of you remember that movie back in like the 80s, 90s? He helped create Jaws. He helped create, if you've been to old school Universal Studios, he helped create the Jaws, like the tram ride. He built that. They also built E.T., which is super old right now, but they built it. So I'm saying all that because camera and video life has been embedded in my life. So what I'm also sharing with you is that if you start to go into a comparison syndrome as it relates to how you show up in your business within entrepreneurship and marketing, Please don't compare yourself to other people's journey, because sometimes a lot of people online, influencers, coaches, they won't even share with you how they became the person that they are. Now, I'm fully transparent where I don't mind doing that, because I feel like even right now, I've shared this part of my story before on my podcast, on videos, but not everybody has heard it, even if you were following me at that time. So I have to constantly remind myself, and I would encourage you to do the same. How many people that are in your community don't know your story? Your story sells. That's a fact in marketing, right? One other thing that I have enjoyed taking a look at, and actually I've been doing it most recently almost every other day, is the importance of documenting your journey. I can go back to photo albums and clearly look at my journey as a child and remember good times, right? Just in case you're going through a bad time. I can go back and pull out old school VHSs if they play, or if they were converted over to a CD, DVD, because I learned how to do that too without YouTube, just kind of trial and error as a kid. Like, I want to learn how to put movies on DVD, and just like going to Yahoo back then, because Google wasn't popping, and learning how to do these things manually. But what I'm also speaking to is that I'm a curious person. So even if things are not going in the direction that I desire, I'm going to figure out a way out, unless it's no longer aligned with my vision, right? But going from photography to holding up the video camera on my shoulder and videotaping me and my cousins doing talent shows in the backyard and putting on skits and plays because I like theater. That's probably another reason why I like video. Also going into high school and videotaping the games and the talent shows in high school, where I was the only kid with a big old camera on my arm. To then, what a lot of people don't know about me is that y'all, I had like 23 jobs before I went into grad school, because I would not be without a job for a fact, right? But I found that a lot of people were not in care of people's college schedule changing every semester, if you get me. And so I just had to switch jobs, because I'm like, I can't work here if you're not willing to work on my school schedule, but I'm gonna work. I need to contribute to my mom's household. She was very basic. Like, I need you to learn independent living skills. She didn't say it like that, but she was like, you're over 18. You need to go to work full time or get a job. Pick one. She didn't force college on me. I chose it. But she did say, you need to contribute to this house. I want you to start practicing a habit. I want you to buy milk, buy tissue, and buy toothpaste. And at first I like complained about it, like, oh my God. And then I realized, clearly becoming an adult, that was major for a kid, right? Especially learning habits. But I'm sharing all of this because when you reflect back on your journey, what you will realize in areas of or history of goodness is that you were tuned into, think about it as a radio station or a TV. In manifestation, they call it frequency, right? But if we just want to use regular English, it is you were tuned into a particular station, and that station was linked to a reason as to why you were doing it, and you were excited about it. You had feelings for it. And in mental health, we call it the cognitive triangle, which is once you have a thought about something, there is an emotion automatically connected, and then there is a behavior. So I want you to think about how you show up in entrepreneurship. I'm gonna show you both sides, especially around marketing, right? Let's just take the negative first. I can wake up and say, oh my God, it's gonna be a horrible day. Oh my God, nobody's going to sign up for my masterclass. Oh my God, nobody's going to buy my ebook. Oh my God, I'm going to have a consultation and these people are going to be a good match, but then they're not going to want to pay for services. So if you wake up with those thoughts automatically in your energetic arena and you're tuned into that negative channel, guess what? You're going to literally manifest exactly what your thoughts are. Why? Because once you have those thoughts, your feelings are automatically going to follow. So because you automatically have those thoughts, your feelings while you shower is not even wanting to like get dressed. Your feeling and your mood is going to be like, blah, low key, I don't even want to get on a consultation call because I already know they're going to say no, right? How that may look in the digital product space is, or actually any service-based product or digital space, is somebody's going to do all this work. You're going to do all this work to like build your product or build up the hype for your product. And then when it comes down to offering your product, doing an Instagram live, doing a podcast or anything, a webinar, you're going to talk yourself out of your next blessing simply because you've already told yourself a narrative that nobody's going to buy your stuff. So I want you to really think about, are you truly setting yourself up in the marketing arena when you put your product or service or value out there for the public to see, to get to know you, right? Like to me sharing my story is marketing. anything that I offer attached to a story is just helping people get to know the person who provided the service, right? So just make sure that you share something that you're okay with sharing, but you have the feeling of blah, and what happens with your behavior? You show up on the live stream sounding like this, looking like this. Like nobody wants to even pay you $10 because you're looking like what you're telling them you can help them solve. So if you're telling them, I can help uplift your mood, I can help you manifest millions, I can help you do all this, but you're looking like, how I tell the therapist, you're looking like the diagnosis you serve, we got a problem. I'm not saying you got to be dude up with makeup all the time. You ain't got to have your hair extra done all the time, but you at least got to be presentable. You at least got to look like the brand that you're marketing. Those are two different things, right? So my brand is Dr. TK. I am a clinical psychologist and therapist mentor, digital product mentor. That is my brand. Those are things that I'm known for in the community. If we want to go deeper into mental health, I have other mini brands under that. Like I have a specialty working with difficult teens. I have a specialty working with juvenile justice. I have a specialty working with couples. It depends on what season I'm in and what I want to market, right? But then the marketing comes from how is the brand going to show up and add value to the marketplace, right? So the positive is you wake up in the morning and you're excited about what's happening today. You can even start it off the night before and say, what do I want to accomplish today? Please give me, spirituality wise, give me the instructions so that I can wake up and be excited about today, right? So right now I'm at a nonprofit and I get excited about the trainings that I provide. Now, granted, I can do the same trainings over and over, but it hits different because it's in front of different people, which means that my conversations are going to be different. My examples are going to be different about trauma and what it looks like in the hood. Today, I'm doing a training with the staff. So today we're going to focus heavily on vicarious trauma related to them interviewing or talking to clients that come through these doors, or even the supervisors who talk to the staff that talk to the clients. That's still a level of trauma. So my conversations look different. So my mood is not going to go down just because I did the same thing over and over again. Some people are not marketing because you're bored. You should not become bored in your business unless you're no longer aligned with what you're doing. Okay? Does that make sense? So I want to take you through how can you change the channel if you're noticing that you're not receiving the level of attraction that you desire in your business. Okay? We're going to learn how to change the channel today. All right? So as I said earlier, I want you to think about the time where you were on the right channel, because I want you to connect a feeling. So do you have that in mind? Just take a moment and think about a time that you were excited about something. It manifested. And when you look back, you were like, I was excited about it the whole time. If you really think about it, there was no doubt in your mind that it was not going to happen. But you won't even realize these things, these synchronicities, unless you go back and actually do a case study on yourself. That is really important. Before you go out and try to offer a product or a service again, or for the first time, please let yourself be your own case study. That's actually how I started my podcast. That still is the gist of my entire podcast. I from time to time have guests, but I really hyper focus on having a solo public podcast, because people like to hear the journey of the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? So I'm going to share with you a vivid example. Earlier was just like times that lit me up, and it was like my mindset, right? So before I go into that, the 80-20 rule, I've been sharing this a lot with my community. I'm not talking about the delegation 80-20 rule. I'm talking about the mindset 80-20 rule. So I want you to move forward with this mindset. Whatever you want to accomplish, you want to remember that it's 80% mindset, 20% strategy. Meaning you can join a product or service program. You can get coaching. You can read a book. You can watch a video. You can take notes. You can type up your notes. You can go to a live event. But at the end of the day, if you don't believe that you can execute on the thing that you just watched, read, or listened to, it does not matter. If you don't believe that the outcome will be the way that you desire, it does not matter. It is your belief system with marketing and success in your business that is the problem, okay? So I'm going to walk you through a story that some people may have heard, but it's going to be in a different context. And it is around how I manifested my home in conjunction with selling my home 7 to 8 years later, right? So when I first bought my home, I'm not going to share the whole story, right? But when I first bought my home, it was at the tail end of the market crash, 2012. It was one of the last homes in that area on like the foreclosure market. So I got it for a super good deal. I bought it in 2011. The home was built in 2005. So it was a fairly new home. We just had to paint and like do the carpet and the flooring, right? And so I purchased the home with my first like job at the county. Actually before I got licensed, I bought the home. And I was also going through a rough season where I had recently got divorced, had no children. So I threw myself into my business. I had already had a private practice, but I just went like extra hard. Or no, I had just started my private practice, like understanding what private practice meant, right? So I had a lot of trial and error. So during that time of me manifesting my home, I can literally recall how lit up I was. So the short version is I first looked at a home in that community. It was a 4-bedroom, 4-bath, or 4-bath. And I put a offer in on the home and I didn't get it. And I was disappointed. But within like a couple of hours, I said, I'm going to get another home here. So because I had been exposed, that's really important, because I was exposed to the community that I wanted to live in, I am very specific with what I desire. Some people don't have to be that specific. I'm specific. Like, I want a home in this location, this amount of square foot. I want the house to look like this, etc. But back then, I was super specific. Like, I only want it in this gated community if I live in Compton. Like, that was the specifier. But I can live outside of Compton, right? So a year and a half later, be patient with what you're trying to manifest. A year and a half later, this house came on the marketplace. And it happened as I was going through this divorce. Okay? So when the home came on the marketplace, I got a Zillow email at like 4:00 in the morning. Don't ask me why I was checking my email that early. Oh, well, I had to go work at the jail. So I was up early, or I was about to wake up. I checked it and I sent my realtor a text and I said, I know you probably won't respond until later. I'm on my way to the jail in Lancaster, so I'll be there for 10 hours, but feel free to text me. Can you put an offer in on this home? And he was like, you don't want to see it? I said, no, I'll figure it out later. Meaning I'm not worried about the how, right? So I had in my mind that the house was mine. I had in my mind a visual of moving into the home. I had in my mind pictures of how each room would be decorated. It got so particular where me and 2 of my other friends were actually buying a home at the same time. And we had downloaded these apps on our iPad where we were able to decorate the home on our phone. Or on our iPad with like how the room is, what the square footage of the home is, what kind of curtains we want, and things like that. So what I'm getting at is like in that season, nobody, despite my personal circumstance and me failing the licensing exam, all those were happening at the same time, but nobody was able to tell me that this home was not mine, right? And so we met at the time, it was still my ex in the picture. We met so many different obstacles because of the times, because they were very particular with how they were lending out money. We went through the buying process, I'm going to say for 90 days until my realtor said, I'm going to introduce you to a broker. And the broker got the house closed in literally 2 weeks. Okay. So we got the keys. Okay. We got the keys. And then a couple of months later, my divorce started to be processed. Okay. So why am I sharing this with you? When I was ready to sell the home, I want you to compare this to marketing. It's a different season. So one season you're lit, the next season, you don't know what's about to happen, 2024. So when we were about to sell the home, the one thing that was in my mind was, my house is good. I know it's going to sell. I hope that it sells for the asking price, but I don't know. And then I started to notice that as we were getting closer to putting the house on the market, something inside of me said, you're not in the right mind space channel to be able to manifest this sale. You need to check yourself. So it wasn't until my realtor hit me up and said, we're going to send a photographer and a videographer and we got a drone and we're going to get footage of your home. So I said, okay, what do I need to do to get this home sold? What do I need to feel? How did I feel when I first bought this home? Because the thought triggers the emotion triggers your reaction. So I said, I need to be excited about my home even though I'm moving, right? Because sometimes we can feel bittersweet about moving, right? So, and it was my choice to sell the home. No issues. I just wanted to move out of Compton for personal reasons. So I said, I'm going to hire some cleaners to deep clean this house. Make that happen, right? The guy came over, we beautified the home, extra cleaned up the home, the kids' room, organized everything because we needed to do it anyway to move. We needed to declutter. So we started decluttering our home, right? So I kid you not, we had one family to come look at the home before I did the decluttering. And it was still clean though, don't get me wrong. And they responded, but not responded to the offer, right? I think they tried to lowball the offer, and I was like, no. So then there was some time that went by, and then the videographer and photographer, all that stuff came out. And they said, we're going to release the house on the marketplace. Because if you know anything about real estate, some people will know about the house listing, but it's not public yet. So they said, we're going to release it to the MLS soon. And I said, okay. But then all of a sudden, somehow somebody knew somebody, and it got out that our house was about to be up for sale, because there was not even a for sale sign. Okay. And so we had a family, a Black couple with a child around like one of our kids' age, come and view the home. And this is after everything was clean, photography, but hell, the photography didn't even hit social media like that. And they put in an offer before they left our front door. And not only did they put in an offer, they put in an offer for the full asking price. And just to give you an idea, it was double the amount of what I originally invested. Now, why am I sharing this with you? You have to be tuned in. I'm going to keep repeating this. If you want something, whether it be new clients, a new stream of income, new money, sometimes like I even put on my vision board clearly, like I want a certain amount of money to invest back into my business. I want a certain amount of money to go to this live event for my business. I want a certain amount of money to work with this coach. I want a certain amount of money to join this mastermind because I want to be around these people. Whatever the case may be, I make a decision with my thoughts that will then get me excited because I know what's on the other side when I accomplish it. And then I go and do it. Faith without works was dead, and you have to do the actionable steps. But you don't have to worry about the how, because when you're excited about the outcome, it's really about you practicing patience, right? Because sometimes we want to manifest things, but it's within your time. And when I look back at my documented journey that I've been watching on YouTube with how I had my first 12K digital product launch, how I had my first 50K month, how I had my first 100K month, how I had my first $1 million like cash collected year, or whatever the case may be. I watch those documentaries. I watch those lives. I like watching myself so that I can honestly critique myself, but also I can take a look at, well, what are people responding to? And honestly, if I need a picker-upper, I will listen to what I told somebody else. Because right now, outside of God, I am the best coach for me outside of God. He's first, I'm second. Nobody knows me better than me, right? So again, I wanted to come on here today to talk about, are you tuned into the right channel for marketing? Because I know that things look different this year. But let me just state a few facts that are not trends, they're facts. The fact is, people no longer want to see just a picture to buy a product or service. They want to hear from the person who's going to provide the product or the service. If you don't want to do video, you better get damn good at doing reels with a catchy hook with a caption. If you don't want to do short form content, you better get good at doing lives. How do you get good? See, here's the thing. Technology is so advanced where there's no excuse as to why you can't practice, if you want what's on the other side, how to get better. So I put my students onto this because it wasn't public. It should be public now. I ain't sure though. But on Instagram, you can go click live right now and it will give you the option. Do you want to only invite certain people? Do you want it to be public or do you want it to be private? If you go through my YouTube channel, I did a series last year on lessons learned during my first, like my $1 million run. And what I did is I did not, for whatever reason, feel like recording it horizontally on YouTube. So I said, sometimes my energy comes out differently for whatever reason when I'm visually looking at a vertical frame. Maybe because that's originally how I start promoting myself online, right? So it does depend on the topic and like, do I want it to be more of a community feel? And now I got a community on YouTube, but in the beginning I didn't, right? So what I did for every single video, it was like 6+ videos or something, it's on YouTube, is I recorded them in private mode. Now, once you go private, you have the opportunity to click public in that moment, or you can click public to put it on your profile. I chose just to download the video and then work with my video editor at the time. And then he just made it look like a presentation with like me on one side of the screen and what I was saying on the left-hand side. But bottom line is, if you are scared of the camera, technology has made it in ways where you can just simply practice. You also have your cell phone just to practice, like nobody's watching. You probably have some type of lens on your computer. Just press record on Zoom and talk to yourself. I've hosted webinars where I didn't intend to talk to myself. But one of the things that I'm known for with saying is, I don't care if 2 people right now are watching me. I don't care if 1 person downloaded a podcast. That's 1 person's life that I'm able to impact. And that's also a thing that I want to mention, is that tuning into the right channel is also watching your words. Okay. And so if you say things like, well, I only had 2 people that got on my email list, I only got 5 people that signed up for my program and I wanted 10. Well, now you're devaluing the people who did see some value within you. Now, I would believe that that's ultimately disrespectful. Would you? Right? And so I just wanted to come on here to start opening up this conversation around marketing. Now, I am hosting a marketing workshop. As I mentioned in the beginning, if you did not catch it, is that I have been hosting one-on-one MVP sessions with therapists. I've also did like a batch of what's called intention setting with people in our DTA program to see what's going on in their private practice business. And then of course, we also have like our DTA Platinum students, which they get Voxer with me, and I talk to them, once a month, via chirp, like on my phone. And the one thing that has continued to come up, honestly, way beyond last month, honestly, going into our past conference, is the area of marketing as a healer and provider, but really not understanding how you want to show up in this year, because it is not the same as you showed up last year. So if you want the link, you can either go to the link in my bio, or you can comment the word class. Just comment the word class right now on this live. I will it'll automatically, the system, send you a DM, and it's the link. It's a free masterclass. Now, the purpose of this masterclass is to talk about the what and the why. The what is marketing in 2024? What does it look like? What can it look like? What can it do for different streams of income? So this is a masterclass that I have not done in over 5 years. And what I mean by that is, before 2020, I was doing masterclasses for just all streams of income, but my topics were super general. I do have very niche down masterclasses, products, and services. But this time I chose to listen to my market, and I'm recognizing that there is a serious issue with the mindset that goes behind marketing, not just the strategy itself. So we're going to talk about the what marketing stuff. We're also going to talk about why you want to shift the way that you market. It doesn't matter if you're focused on a digital product. It doesn't matter if you're focused on a service-based product, okay? I have what's called, I'm gonna say, a hybrid mixed product suite. I currently have, if we want to explain like my ascension model, but I'm gonna do another live on this, is I go from free to general classes to specified coaching programs or mentorship programs to one-on-one services. Like, I do this because it's a triangle, and the access gets smaller and smaller because I spend a lot of time with my one-on-one clients or people who are in those more intimate programs. But I just felt like, I don't like to say the word need, but I felt like an intuitive download that my clients are continuously, or people who are not my clients, but they became my client for that one-on-one session, they have continuously brought up marketing questions, right? And so type out the word class. You will be invited to a free seat. I'm going to be going live on Friday. I'm going to do a lunch and learn. If you can't come, make sure that you try to come, but sign up still so that at least you can get the replay for a limited time. And when I say limited time, it may be only available for like 2 days. And that's it. And so I hope that you really enjoyed this live podcast episode. I'm currently about to get prepared for a one-on-one intention setting call with one of our clients so that we can take a deeper look at their private practice. If you were wondering when we're going to start doing the private practice stuff, just stay tuned for July, because that's usually around the time that I go extra hard with private practice, because it's my yearly anniversary time for private practice. Okay. But for right now, even if you want a private practice, even if you have a service-based business, digital product business, it doesn't matter. If you want to understand marketing from a psychological perspective, then you want to come. All right. So comment the word class. Thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate y'all from Orlando, from LA. Hey, Monique. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and I will talk to y'all later. Bye. Fire me up. You just finished another epic episode of the Abundant Creator Podcast. Now, I would love to connect with you, so be sure to head down to the show notes for any additional abundant resources. And if you are looking for a new tribe of abundant creators like yourself, connect with me on Instagram at Dr. TK Site or YouTube at Dr. TK. Until the next episode, create and live abundantly.